Hey guys, how are you doing? I'm coming to you from my living room because now my husband is sick and he's upstairs taking a bath, which is kind of funny because he is like literally never taken a bath the whole time I've known him. He showers. He's just not a bath person. But anyways, so I have been on kind of a really bizarre dive into learning about celebrities and MK Ultra and how they're using all this to um, influence the public, right? I think that's really what it goes back to is when you strip everything down to its bare bones, there's forces behind them that are either working for the Lord or and like that the enemy of the Lord, the armies of darkness. And one thing that I wanted to mention right off the bat because it's kind of fresh with like in pop culture right now is the incident with Damar Hamlin. And I don't really watch football, but of course I heard about what happened, how he collapsed on the field. And there were people saying that there was something weird about it, like right from the very beginning. And I'm not going to comment. I think we can probably all guess the cause of what likely caused his collapse, his cardiac arrest. But just recently, I think maybe it was just yesterday, there was supposed footage of him coming back out into the public to support his team. And the footage is really weird. He like arrives with a whole entourage of security guards. Okay, that's not that weird, but he's wearing glasses. He's got his hood up. He's wearing a big cloth mask. It's like entirely obscuring his face, and they don't really show any good shots of him where you could identify, okay, that's definitely him. But at one point, he goes in front of the window where the fans or whatever can see him, and he's like going like this, like like that, and which is really weird if you've just suffered a life-threatening cardiac event that you're going to be pumping your arms like that. But then he does this, and then he does this, and then he does this, and I know what this means, okay? This is an Illuminati signal, and they love the triangle. It's all about the one seeing eye. It doesn't even matter why. It basically all goes back to Satan worship. But I didn't know what this was. Like, what is this? I looked that up. A lot of people do that. They do this. And a lot of like magazine covers and stuff. And it's a 6 for 666. Another way of acknowledging that they're pledging their allegiance publicly, symbolically to the devil. And I'm like, so this guy who just had a cardiac arrest, he's showing up at a football game, throwing his arms all around like he's Jane Fonda, and then throwing Illuminati signs. Like, this just weird. And I know it's becoming, like many other conspiracy theories, more mainstream. A lot of people think that a lot of these celebrities and politicians and sports stars, they're actually clones. And I don't really have an opinion on that. Do I think it's possible? Yes. I just can't really figure out why they would go to the trouble of cloning celebrities. But what I can say is that there has to be something going on with the whole mind control element, which goes back to actually before the 1950s. Really brief overview, if you've heard of Operation Paperclip, our government recruited a lot of Nazi scientists and engineers. After the war, they brought them here under secrecy, and they said they could avoid basically paying for their war crimes if they would be willing to work for our government and divulge the secrets of things that they had uncovered during their extremely inhumane, like no holds barred testing that they did on, the victims of the Holocaust. And so that's extremely sketch to begin with. And a lot of that in history is glossed over, how, like, you might recognize the name Albert Speer. He was a Nazi, and then he came to America and got a fresh start and helped develop the NASA program. And if you guys don't believe me, look it up. It happened, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. They were also doing absolutely brutal psychological experiments on people with regards to erasing their memories, splitting their personality, basically causing people to develop dissociative identity disorder, where in order to handle the trauma, you learn to disassociate, and from that extreme repeated trauma, you develop multiple personalities, and that they can program one of these personalities to come out with like code words and stuff. And they hint at a lot of these things, as they love to do that in a lot of Hollywood entertainment, like Stranger Things. There's tons and tons of examples where they allude to this kind of thing. But it is happening, and it's extremely demonic. And if you go back, you can find pictures of Anton LaVey, who was the founder of modern Satanism, posing with different Hollywood starlets like Jane Mansfield. He allegedly was involved with Marilyn Monroe. And people think now, looking back and like piecing together the pieces, that these Hollywood starlets from the 1950s were involved in the beginning of this CIA-led, extremely covert experiment where they were taking mostly young women who had a very troubled background with abuse and neglect, and especially, early childhood sexual trauma, because they were easier to break, they were easier to program, and they began experimenting on them. And it's continued right up until this time. And if you're like, well, why would they do that? Well, because people literally worship these celebrities. I mean, Marilyn Monroe has been dead for, I don't know, maybe like 50 years, and you still see her image like plastered everywhere. And a lot of the starlets of today, they'll purposefully pay homage or whatever, but they'll take on some sort of her trademark look as like a wink wink to their forerunner, Marilyn Monroe, who herself died under suspicious circumstances. And anyways, so this is all tied in together. And I saw a bunch of videos that did like a deep dive of these celebrities, and it's so crazy. You can, look up on YouTube or Rumble, MK Ultra celebrities or celebrities glitching. And there's like video after video of especially newscasters and athletes and singers, some actresses who are acting very weird on camera. And like a lot of them, they will just freeze. Like the lights are on, but no one's home for like an extended time. We're talking like 20 to 30 seconds of just completely frozen. Or you can just see that a lot of the ones who have very openly embraced occultism, the Illuminati crap, like Madonna, Katy Perry, those are the two ones that really stand out to me. But they you've seen any videos from them lately, they have completely lost their minds. Like, there are some really disturbing videos out there about them just uploading. They think it's them being casual, and anyone who's living not in La La Land is like, there is something seriously wrong with these people. And I think, you know, whether they're undergoing these traumatic, mind washing, programming, events or rituals, I can't say for sure, but I do know that people have come out and admitted that they have literally sold their souls for fame. And when they try to get out of it, the system, they know what triggers them, and they know how to make them look crazy, and they do. Like Martin Lawrence, or the really popular one right now, Kanye West, or Ye. He is like a huge obvious example of this, because in 2016, when he was malfunctioning, he was institutionalized against his will by his trainer, Harley Pasternak, who is their trainer to the stars, who just happens to have a military background. And Kanye, or Ye, whatever, he just recently tweeted out a screenshot of a message from his personal trainer, aka his handler, threatening him after his latest meltdown. Like, look, option one is you can sit down and have a talk with me and we're going to get you straightened out. Option two is I get you committed again and you're going to go off to zombie land forever. So that's out there. You guys can look it up if you want, but it's just crazy. And I read a lot of these stories. There's this website called Vigilant Citizen. It's a Christian guy that's exposing a lot of this in Hollywood, and especially in the music industry. And it's really just shocking how deeply, deeply embedded it is, and how you cannot get famous unless you sell out to their agenda. And I think these stars, even if they're not going through crazy things like electroshock therapy and heavy drugs and the CIA mind control stuff, they are going through Illuminati initiation rites, where I believe they are opening themselves up to entities. And even if that's the only thing that's happening, I mean, that's enough, and that's enough to explain why so many of them go crazy. They die young, or that you can just see the progression of their mental health declining over time. And it really all goes back to the fact that the enemy, this is how he works. He promises you the world, and he actually did that to Jesus. When Jesus was being tested in the wilderness, he said, look, all the kingdoms, all this, he showed him, took him to a high place and showed him the kingdoms of the world. He's like, this is all mine to give to whom I would, and I will give it to you if you will bow down and worship me. And that's the same thing he does today. And the thing is that it is all in his power to give. He is called the Prince of the Power of the Air. The whole world right now is under his delusions. And if you have wondered why so many people around you have not woken up to what's really going on, it's because they are just hooked into the system that Satan completely dominates. They're listening to pop music, they're watching all the movies that come out, they're streaming Netflix. It's like opening yourself up constantly so the devil can just dump his garbage into you. And if like you're like me, for example, and like I got saved very radically, and I just stopped with most of that stuff. And at times when I am re-exposed to it, I am just shocked at how like overt and demonic everything has gotten. It's gotten way worse since like when I was a teenager. And, you know, we know that's just another end time sign that our society, we've become like, you know, the days of Noah or Sodom and Gomorrah. And it's just all part of this world system. And oh, sorry, back to what the enemy does. So these people who think that fame, money, becoming a star athlete, whatever, becoming, you know, a big time politician, they think it's going to make them happy. They make these deals and they get what they want, but at a terrible, terrible cost. And like I said, a lot of stars, they die young, they die under weird circumstances. Like a lot of fashion designers, I think they're being sacrificed because it's weird. Like if you look up every 4 years, a major, we're talking like Loren Scott or Kate Spade, they die in the same way. They're strangled by a scarf, or they hang themselves by a scarf. And everyone around them is like, they weren't suicidal. I don't know what happened. Well, these people are being sacrificed because that's what the enemy does. He lures you in. He promises you what you want. You get what you want. If you go along with it, it leaves you so empty and so miserable, and he uses you up. And once you're no longer of any use to him, he's just gonna kill you. And you know, like this verse from Jeremiah 2:5, he says, "This is what the Lord says, what fault did your ancestors find in me, that they strayed so far from me? They followed worthless idols and became worthless themselves." And guys, this is just a picture, like Jesus said, you know, if you're not for me, you're against me. And if you're not following the Lord, you will by default just follow the enemy and the systems of this world. And Jesus said in Matthew 16:26, "What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul?" And I always kind of saw that kind of like metaphorically, but I think he meant it quite literally. These people who are, you know, the world would view them as being on top of the world. They're deceived, and the enemy is using them to deceive the whole world, especially in music. And it's really, really dark. And I'm not like a Pharisee type at all. Like, I don't want to tell you, like, you can't listen to popular music or anything, but just be really careful, guys. There's something about music that has the ability to impact our soul in such a direct way. And the Bible passage that came to mind is when David was called to play his harp for Saul, and because Saul was dealing with spiritual warfare. You know, Saul was kind of a wicked and double-minded man, and this evil spirit was allowed to torment him. And he would call in David, who was just a shepherd boy who had his own arsenal. We know he later went on to write most of the Psalms, but David would play his harp and sing his worship songs, and it would shift the atmosphere, and it would give Saul a sense of peace as long as David was playing. And guys, like, that is no less true today. Like, the things we hear, the things we listen to, it changes the atmosphere around us. So, and there there are spiritual energies in music. I have felt them. Like, every once in a while I might miss certain alternative rock or whatever, and I'll play some here or there, but there's been times where I just feel like this spiritual energy when I'm listening to this music trying to settle on me, and I'm just like, oh wow, this is this is some sort of spirit of the world. And that is why nowadays I mostly just listen to praise and worship music. And actually that reminds me of a verse that really just popped into my mind that I want to share with you guys. It's from Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And so, because our brains are always going and our souls are always very absorbent, that may sound weird, but that's kind of just how I think of it. We have to make sure that we are protecting our eye gates and our ear gates, so we're not just open to whatever garbage the enemy wants to dump on us, because there are spiritual repercussions for what we choose to listen to. And I do think that back to like the MK Ultra stuff, this stuff has been going on for a really long time, and now they have a very strong grip on the entertainment industry. They know what they're doing, and absolutely everything that they do, they are covertly bringing praise to their god in the entertainment industry, which is Satan. And they can dress it up and make it appealing to the masses, but it's just not good, guys. And like, I feel like in the last 2 years, everything, like this great advancement of deception that's come on the world, it's really shown a lot of what's inside of us. And I've seen a lot of Christian teachers fall to the point where, like, for instance, Franklin Graham was using his influence, his platform, to try to guilt trip, try to manipulate his flock into getting this thing, even going as so far as to say that if Jesus was alive, Jesus would be pushing this onto people, which is pretty special. I don't know. And a lot of other mainstream people use their platforms to push this on their followers, and it's just unfortunate, guys. But thankfully, there's been a really solid counter movement to all this on YouTube. Just regular people like me and many others starting YouTube channels, because we see the suppression of truth. We see the advancement of this dark agenda everywhere, and we know we're in the last times. We're in the end days, and the rapture is so soon. So anyways, guys, just some things on my heart. Really do not believe everything you see, especially if it's from mainstream media. And sadly, even a lot of more mainstream pastors, you have to just be really careful, and you have to follow the Holy Spirit, what the Holy Spirit's leading you now more than ever. And for goodness sakes, just don't listen to pop music. Like, I listen to some secular music too, but you just have to pay attention to what doesn't feel like it's violating your spirit, basically. So anyways, guys, thank you for listening. I hope you're having a great day. Bye.